Chosen one, someone who once pretended to be your ally, is currently trapped in a reality they cannot escape. Either they confess, or the police will. They were scheming to unalive you. The secret meetings and the calculated malice they directed toward your life have triggered a legal and spiritual collapse that is already in motion. There was a version of you not long ago who was carrying something heavy. You were pushing through seasons that felt relentless. You were healing things that had not fully closed. You were rebuilding what had been knocked down, getting up every day and choosing to keep going, even when stopping felt easier. You were doing the work and showing up even when no one was watching. And the entire time you were being watched, not by strangers, by people who called you family, by people who called you a friend, by people who had earned enough access to learn your patterns, identify where your armor had gaps, and quietly map the most effective route to your destruction. While you were healing, someone else was planning. Now the instinct when you hear that is to feel blindsided. But here is what I need you to notice instead. You felt it. You felt something the entire time. There was a knowing underneath all the noise of daily life that kept surfacing no matter how many times you pushed it back down. There was a discomfort that would not resolve and a low-grade alarm that never fully silenced. That feeling was not anxiety. It was not paranoia. It was precision. It was real, accurate, spiritual intelligence, signaling that something in your environment was not presenting itself honestly. You just did not have the full picture yet. That picture is assembling right now, and by the time it is complete, you will understand that nothing that happened to you was random. The attack was specific, because you are specific, because what you carry and what you are here to do attracts a particular kind of opposition. The war began before you knew it was a war, but here is what the enemies of chosen ones always miscalculate. You do not need to know a battle is happening in order to win it. You were already winning while you were just living your life. Carry that forward. It matters more as we go deeper. The people behind this did not appear from nowhere. They were already inside your circle, already trusted, and already given access to the interior of who you are. There are two of them at the center of this. The first one operates like someone who long ago decided that other people exist, either to be used or to be removed. Every relationship this person enters is a transaction. Every connection is evaluated as an asset or a liability. This person looked at you, ran a cold calculation, and determined that your absence was worth more to them than your presence. A decision was made with the kind of composure that only exists in someone who has never truly believed that consequences apply to them. This is the architect. This is the one who designed the plan. The second one is something else entirely. Where the first uses blunt force, this one uses precision and performance. Wearing masks comes naturally to this person. Crying on command is a practiced skill. Maintaining warmth in your presence while carrying cold intentions underneath is an art that has been refined over a long time. This person was the one feeding information back, mapping your emotional state, identifying the windows when you were most vulnerable, and reporting what was found to the one running the operation. This is the infiltrator. This is the one who was already inside before the plan was ever spoken out loud. These two found each other. They recognized something in each other, the way that people with shared obsessions always eventually do. They formed an alliance built not on loyalty, because neither of them is capable of that, but on a shared objective, your removal from the picture, and in forming that alliance, they made a mistake they did not see coming. They believed they were constructing a weapon. What they actually built was a countdown to their own exposure. Alliances between fundamentally self-serving people do not hold under real pressure. When the heat arrives, and it has arrived, the calculation shifts from protecting each other to protecting self at any cost. Right now, each one is watching the other and quietly calculating who benefits more from being the first one to talk. That fracture is not just a crack. It is an opening, and everything buried inside it is already coming out. This was not someone venting in a bad moment. This was not anger talking carelessly. This was a plan. It was layered, deliberate, and researched with the kind of patience that only exists in someone who has fully convinced themselves that what they are doing is justified. The goal was to have you gone permanently, in a way that looked like anything other than what it actually was: an accident, a tragedy, something that would deflect suspicion while allowing certain people to move forward and collect what they had positioned themselves to receive once you were no longer here, because financial gain was at the center of this, and you cannot let anyone minimize that part. If this message aligned with your purpose, hype this video so fellow chosen ones can find their confirmation. Someone sat down and calculated the value of your death. Based on that calculation, financial moves were made, documents were arranged, designations were set up. An entire infrastructure was quietly built around the assumption that you would be gone before you ever discovered it existed. The scheme also had stages designed to soften the ground before the final move. The first stage was isolation. You had to be separated from anyone who might notice something was wrong, ask the right questions, or pay close enough attention to recognize that what was unfolding around you was manufactured. The goal was to make your loneliness look like your own personality, rather than a condition being deliberately engineered around you. The second stage was weakening. The aim was to erode your clarity, pull your frequency down to a place where you would be easier to maneuver, and position you for whatever came next. Every single stage of that plan required your cooperation. Isolation only works if you accept it. Weakening only lands if you absorb what is sent. The final move only succeeds if you are exactly where they expected you to be, spiritually, emotionally, and energetically. You were not there, not by accident. While that plan was being constructed around you, something else was simultaneously rebuilding you from within. The version of you they had studied, mapped and targeted, was already being replaced by a version they had no playbook for. They built a trap designed for who you used to be, and by the time they were ready to use it, someone entirely different was standing in that space. The whole time that plan was being assembled against you, something else was being assembled around you. It was something the architects of your destruction could not see, could not measure, and had no method for neutralizing. Every time you felt the pull to change something in your life, without being able to fully explain why, you were responding to real intelligence. Every time you removed someone from your space, even though it cost you socially, you were protecting a boundary that mattered more than you knew. Every time you walked away from something that looked fine on the surface but felt wrong underneath, and every time you followed that internal signal despite pressure from others telling you that you were being too sensitive or too harsh, you were making precise tactical decisions in a conflict you were not yet consciously aware of. You were winning without knowing you were in the game. Every practice you maintained strengthened something your enemies could not account for. Every toxic connection you severed created space that made your protection operate more effectively. Every moment of genuine stillness you chose sharpened a discernment that was quietly becoming more refined than anything being directed against you. What was sent against you did not simply vanish when it failed to land. What was sent to hook you found a system that rejected it. What was sent to cloud your judgment found a clarity that cut right through it. What was sent to isolate you found a person who discovered, against all expectation, that solitude is actually where their power concentrates most. Every failed attack strengthened your defense. Every dark thing launched at you that returned to the sender came back amplified, carrying the name of whoever sent it. The certainty of the people behind this started cracking, not because of anything you actively did against them, but because everything they aimed at you came back. The outcome of this was always fixed. You were always going to be standing at the end of it. Look, you already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Their walls are closing in. You've also noticed something else. A lot of Chosen One channels on YouTube have gone quiet. Videos removed. Voices pushed off the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice, so let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine, and when you join, you're not just supporting your favorite channels, you're also fueling your own rise. It's a 360 win. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. The beauty is, you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $7 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. One of the people involved cannot sleep, not poor sleep, real sustained relentless sleeplessness. This person lies awake in the dark, staring at a ceiling that feels like it is pressing down, getting up and sitting back down, compulsively checking communications because every alert could be the one that signals the end. What is eating from the inside is not guilt. Do not give this person that much credit. It is the cold, trapped panic of someone who can see exactly what is approaching and has exhausted every available move to get out of the way of it. The other person is still performing, still showing up, still maintaining the mask, but the performance is now costing everything just to sustain. People nearby are noticing something is off without being able to name exactly what it is. The composure that once came effortlessly is now visibly strained. The slippage started small. Now it is becoming something that others are beginning to quietly discuss among themselves. And the alliance between these two is disintegrating. When cornered people who have only ever known self-preservation face real pressure, the loyalty calculation disappears completely. The question is no longer how to protect each other. It becomes how to protect oneself, even if that requires sacrificing the other. Each one is now constructing a private version of events that positions them as less responsible. Each one is watching the other and calculating who has more to lose by staying silent. That internal fracture is the opening through which everything buried is about to pour. What neither of them knows, or perhaps suspects, and is desperately hoping is wrong, is this: the evidence they believed was handled was never handled, not even close. The people who believed they were untouchable are now being touched by the very consequences they designed for you. The restlessness that was sent to destabilize you has taken up permanent residence in them instead. The confusion that was dispatched in your direction found its way home. The sense of inescapable closing in that was engineered to make you desperate is now the defining atmosphere of their daily existence, and there is nothing they can do to clear it. You need to see this clearly, not as satisfaction, but as confirmation. The spiritual law that governs chosen lives is not abstract. It is not a concept you repeat to comfort yourself in hard seasons. It is a mechanism, and that mechanism has been running since the very first moment any plan was made against you. What was intended for your destruction is now actively dismantling the people who intended it. Every sleepless hour they log, every strained performance they push through, every anxious calculation they run about who knows what and who is about to say something, that is the weight of what they built, landing on the only people it was ever truly going to reach. You did not have to do a single thing to make that happen. You simply had to survive. And you did. The evidence was never gone. Digital records do not disappear the way most people believe they do. What gets deleted does not cease to exist. It moves to locations that require specific tools to access, and those tools exist. Investigators have them. The communications discussing your patterns, your vulnerabilities, who would benefit from your death, and how suspicion would be managed afterward, are all sitting in servers, carrier databases, and backup systems that no one thought to account for because no one fully understood how permanent a digital record actually is. The financial activity tells its own complete account without a single accompanying word. Certain moves only make logical sense in one specific context, and that context is exactly what investigators are now examining. Every transaction is a data point, and enough data points arranged in sequence become undeniable evidence. The picture being assembled right now is detailed, damning, and growing more complete by the day. Witnesses are providing what the records leave open. People who were present when things were said out loud. People who overheard fragments that seemed meaningless at the time, but are now essential. And people who were trusted with information they were never supposed to carry to the right authorities, but ultimately did, because carrying it alone became unbearable. Each one of those people is contributing to a timeline that leaves no gaps. Physical evidence fills whatever remains. Footage places certain people in locations they denied ever visiting. Activity directly corresponds to significant moments in your life. Documented accounts contradict what was claimed independently and repeatedly. The investigation is not a future event. It is active right now. Communications being made are being monitored. Movements are being logged. The level of scrutiny being applied is far beyond what anyone involved anticipated, because they operated under the assumption that no one was paying close enough attention. Something triggered the process. A pattern in communications raised an alert. A financial move appeared irregular to someone with the authority to investigate it. A person who was close enough to the planning became too uncomfortable to remain silent and spoke to someone who could act on what they shared. However, the door opened. It opened all the way, and what came through is building a case with methodical precision that leaves no space for reasonable doubt. The charges being prepared are serious: conspiracy, attempted murder, financial fraud. Courts do not treat these matters lightly. When the process reaches its next stage, and it will, the thoroughness of what has already been documented ensures that nothing will be lost before it is preserved, and the assets that were positioned to be collected once you were gone, those are now the very resources most likely to be forfeited rather than received. The financial infrastructure that was built around your death has become the financial evidence against the people who built it. The trap closed. It just closed on the wrong people. Specifically, it closed on the ones who set it. Before the full legal process completes, something else is going to happen first. The confession is coming. The only variable is which form it takes when it arrives. One possibility is that someone breaks before law enforcement makes contact and comes to you directly. This will be presented as bravery, as conscience finally forcing its way to the surface, and as the action of a person who simply could not go on carrying what they knew. Do not receive it through that framing. What this actually represents is a calculated final attempt by someone who has run completely out of better options and is hoping that reaching you first allows some influence over how everything gets interpreted. Every word of that confession will be constructed with a purpose. The minimizing arrives first. It was not as serious as it sounds. No one was ever actually going to follow through. After the minimizing comes the redirection. Certain circumstances made this feel understandable. Your own choices contributed to the situation. And then comes the performance itself. The voice breaking at the right moment. References to personal pain used as a mechanism to shift your attention away from what was done and toward what the other person experienced. Recognize it for what it is. It is manipulation wearing the mask of honesty. People who could construct what was constructed against you, who could maintain warmth in your presence while simultaneously planning your destruction, do not develop genuine transparency when they are cornered. The performance simply escalates because the stakes demand it. What looks like a confession is the final attempt at controlling you. It is still aimed at you. It is still designed to use your compassion as a resource to be harvested. Receive the information. Let it confirm what your instincts have been carrying for a long time. Do not let your capacity for grace become a shield for someone who invested real effort into planning to remove you from this earth. The second possibility is that the truth arrives through official channels, an investigator, law enforcement with documentation, and a case file bearing your name. That is an entirely different experience. That is the universe delivering your vindication in language that cannot be minimized, revised, or argued away. That is every warning you received and talked yourself out of being confirmed in terms that are formal, binding, and irrefutable. Either way, the truth lands, and when it does, you do not collapse. You do not perform devastation for anyone observing. You stand exactly as you have been standing through all of it. Upright, covered, unbroken. Nobody fully prepares you for what the moment of confirmation actually feels like. It does not feel like victory. It does not feel clean, even when you suspected, even when part of you already understood, even when your spirit had been holding the weight of this knowledge without permission to name it out loud. The moment it becomes undeniable still hits differently than anything you anticipated. It lands like something physical. Let it land. There is a sensation in that moment that does not have a precise name. It sits somewhere between relief and devastation. It is what happens when an illusion you were still half protecting finally shatters completely, because even in your deepest suspicion, some part of you was holding space for the possibility that you were wrong, that the people involved were not quite as far into darkness as the evidence was pointing, that some explanation would arrive and make this less than what it is. No such explanation is coming, and the loss of that final possibility is real. Grieve it honestly, not for the people involved, but for yourself. Grieve for the portion of you that extended genuine trust to people who were converting it into a weapon. Grieve for the investment you made in connections that were structured around your undoing. That loss deserves to be felt fully before you move past it. And then something shifts. It cannot be forced and it cannot be rushed, but it comes. The exhale. The release of tension you have been holding in your body without realizing how long it has been lodged there. The lightning that arrives when the thing you have been sensing without being permitted to name it finally has a clear, confirmed shape. You were not imagining it. You were not the problem. You were tracking a real and active threat, using the sharpest instrument available to a chosen one, which is your own knowing. And your knowing was right the entire time. Let that exhale happen all the way through, then let the anger come. Do not perform a grace you have not genuinely arrived at yet. The fury of discovering that people who knew your name deliberately gathered together to discuss removing you from this earth is righteous and fully warranted. Let it move through you without consuming you. Channel it into the forward momentum of the chapter that follows this one, but do not rush past it to appear more evolved. You are developed enough to feel the complete range of what this carries. And underneath all of that, beneath the exhale and the anger and everything the emotions bring with them, something permanent has been installed in you. A knowing so tested and so confirmed that nothing coming next can dissolve it. Not new opposition, not future disappointment, not the next person who presents warmth while concealing something else entirely, because now you carry proof, not belief, documented, lived, pressure-tested proof that what covers your life operates beyond the reach of any human scheme, that knowing becomes the foundation of everything you build from here. You were the target, that is accurate. You were the subject of coordinated, financially motivated, carefully staged plotting that went further than most people are ever willing to fully acknowledge. All of that is real, and all of it is documented. But target and victim are not the same designation. A target is what someone aims at. A victim is what results when the aim successfully connects. In your case, nothing connected. Every layer of the plan failed. Every attack that was launched either missed entirely or returned to its source. The target was absolutely real. The outcome they intended never arrived. because you were never as exposed as the people behind this believed you to be. So what are you in this? You are the evidence. You are the evidence. You are the living, breathing, undeniable demonstration that the protection over a chosen life is not poetic language or spiritual comfort. It is functional, it is responsive, it is precise enough to intercept coordinated attempts to end your life and redirect the consequences back to the originators. You are the proof that the calling placed on you is real enough to be worth protecting at a level that no human plotting can override. The people who invested in trying to end your assignment produced, instead, your testimony. Your account will reach others who need to understand that what covers their own lives is just as real. You emerged from this carrying something that cannot be taken from you and cannot be acquired by anyone who did not earn it, exactly the way you did. You know, not as a belief you are maintaining, not as a hope you are holding on to, as lived, confirmed, attack surviving, plot outlasting knowledge that what guards your life is more powerful than anything that has ever been sent against it. That is what moves forward with you now. No gloating. That is the first principle. Your energy is too valuable to spend in the direction of their downfall. Every moment you invest in watching them fall is a moment you are still pointing toward them instead of forward. They received enough of your attention while they were plotting against you. That chapter is closed. Let the legal process produce whatever public record it produces. Let the universe complete its own accounting. You move forward and do not look back at the wreckage. No manufactured revenge. Justice is already executing through channels more thorough and more inevitable than anything you could design yourself. Adding anything to that process only creates drag on your own momentum. You were not built to operate at the frequency of people who scheme in darkness. You were built for something that requires you to stay clean, stay elevated, and stay fully aligned with who you actually are, rather than who certain people tried to make you become. Forgiveness is next, and you need to understand what this word actually means before you resist it. Forgiveness is not mercy toward them, it is not reconciliation, it is not absolution from consequences, it is a surgical procedure you perform on yourself to sever the cord that still connects you to people who wished you dead. As long as that cord remains intact, it drains from you daily. Cutting it does not mean what was done is acceptable. It means you are no longer willing to carry their darkness into the life ahead of you. Your peace has more value than their punishment. Choose your peace without hesitation and without apology. Heal without performing recovery. You are allowed to sit fully in the reality of what betrayal at this level actually costs. You are allowed to feel the weight of discovering that people who had access to your trust used it as a coordinate for destruction. You are allowed to process the retroactive recognition of how close actual danger came to your life. Feel all of it completely. Set it down when you have genuinely finished with it, not before but absolutely after. Then rise, without apology, without the shrinking awareness of being targeted once installed in you. You just survived a coordinated, financially backed, multiply-staged attempt to remove you from this earth. You are standing right now. What else in this life could ever present itself as an obstacle worth fearing? Nothing measures up to what you already cleared. You have already survived the hardest version of the test. Everything from this point forward is ground you can and will dominate. Why you? Because the people who came against you understood something about your assignment before you fully understood it yourself. They could see what was developing in you before you had full visibility of it. And what they saw was threatening enough to justify the level of response they mounted against you. Ordinary lives do not attract coordinated schemes with financial backing and multiple participants. The scale of opposition you faced is a direct reflection of the scale of what you are here to carry. What you are here to do is significant enough that darkness chose to mobilize against it with real resources and real sustained commitment. Your presence disrupts. Your growth exposes. Your evolution creates discomfort in structures that are built on keeping people small, compliant, and convinced that they are less than they are. When you step into full alignment, something changes in the atmosphere around you that opposition cannot ignore and cannot afford to allow to continue unchallenged. That is why the attack was specific. That is why it was sustained. That is why it escalated to the level it reached. The goal was never simply to hurt you. The goal was to prevent what happens when you activate fully, and the people behind it understood, even when you did not yet, exactly what that full activation would mean for everything they were trying to hold in place. Now you understand it too. Nothing about the scale of what you are being called to do can be used to make you feel like you are reaching too far, moving too fast, or claiming more than is yours. All of it is yours. They confirmed that by trying to take it from you. Go back through the record of everything that felt like a loss. The relationship that ended in hurt and confusion. The opportunity that disappeared without a clear explanation. The season when forward motion seemed impossible, regardless of how much effort you applied. The period of isolation that registered in your body as abandonment. The financial strain. The stretches of spiritual dryness when connection felt distant and unreachable. The moments when you genuinely sensed that something was actively working against you from a direction you could not fully identify. Now examine all of that with what you understand today. The relationship that ended. That person was connected to what was being built against you. The removal was not a loss. It was protection. What registered as heartbreak was actually a wire being cut. One that was actively feeding information about you into a system designed to cause you harm. The pain of that ending was real, so was its necessity. The opportunity that evaporated. You would have been in a far more exposed and vulnerable position if it had materialized. The closing of that particular door was redirection. It moved you away from an environment where the attack against you had better access and toward a position where your covering could function with fewer obstacles in the way. The isolation. The people behind this attempted to weaponize your aloneness. They tried to engineer your distance from others as a precondition for what they planned to execute next. What they failed to calculate is that chosen ones do not diminish in isolation, they clarify in it. The gifts that require silence to surface do their best work when external noise is removed. The discernment that requires distance from competing voices sharpens fastest when you are on your own. The unshakable internal authority you now carry only deepens when you are left alone long enough to hear it clearly. Isolation was sent to weaken you. It activated what was dormant in you instead. The financial strain, the spiritual dryness, the relentless seasons. Each one was stripping away a layer of the compromised version of you that could not fully carry what was coming. Each one was removing what was functional but insufficient. Each one was forcing the kind of honest reckoning with yourself that comfortable circumstances never demand and never produce. The people who designed a sequence meant to dismantle you inadvertently produced the exact conditions required to build you into someone they could never have reached. That sequence was not accidental, and it was never theirs to control. Look at where you are standing right now. You have the complete picture, not the fragmented version that left you doubting your own instincts, but the full picture, the architect and the infiltrator, the financial calculation made around your absence, the staged approach designed to make your death look like something other than what it would have been, the attacks that failed because what was protecting you was already active before you even knew protection was necessary, the investigation in motion right now, the confession already approaching from one direction or the other, the deeper law already returning consequences to the people who first set them in motion. You have all of it now, and what was promised at the beginning is delivered. You recognize what you have always been, the one they could never touch. That is not a conclusion, that is a confirmation. It is confirmation of something you have always carried, but perhaps lacked the documented evidence to stand in fully without second-guessing yourself. You are covered. Not hoping to be, not working to convince yourself that you are. You are tested under the most extreme conditions, pressure confirmed, attack surviving, plot outlasting, and standing covered in a way that has now been proven beyond any argument. Walk in that, not selectively, not only when it feels easy or obvious. Walk in it especially when you are in spaces where opposition is present and the temptation to make yourself smaller feels practical. Playing small never kept anyone safer. It only made the target easier to locate. The guidance that brought you here does not stop at this point. It continues forward into the purpose that was protected at such significant cost. It continues into the calling that your enemies understood with more clarity than you did when they chose to mobilize against it. It continues into the fully activated version of who you are, which is no longer a possibility or a potential, but something present, operational, and ready. And this is the thing about fully activated chosen ones, that darkness never accounts for when it decides to come against them. The opposition does not just fail to stop you, it accelerates you. Every attack you survived sharpened something in you that ease and comfort never could have reached. Every season of pressure produced a resilience that no amount of favorable circumstances could have manufactured. Every person who tried to remove you from your path inadvertently confirmed that the path is real, that what you are walking toward is significant, and that your arrival there is inevitable. The evidence is building, the confession is coming, the war is already won, and you, chosen one, you were never going anywhere. Go dominate everything they tried to take from you, now.